This is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 401 Games. And this week's game is Endangered by first-time designer Joe Hopkins and published by the Grand Gamers Guild. So in Endangered, you and up to 3 other players must cooperate to save a species from extinction and get enough political support at the United Nations to get them to pass a resolution protecting the species. So let's take a look inside and see if this is the game for you. Endangered has all the usual cooperative game type tropes. Each player takes the role of a specific job, say a zoologist, or a lobbyist, or a diplomat, or so on. Each role has 2 sides. I like the diversity of representation in the artwork. I also like that you get to choose one of 2 special powers. So in this case, the zoologist has the migration routes bonus, but there's also a second one. So that really drastically increases the playability of the game because depending on the special roles each player has, things are going to play out differently. Each role also comes with its own colored set of dice and its own unique deck of cards, which provide the actions and the powers, which are thematic for each role that player can contribute to the game. Then you have the endangered species themselves. So the base game comes with 2, the tiger and the sea otter. And each of them comes with its own unique type of meeple and its own setup card with its setup rules and offspring rules, and also its own unique way that the environment gets destroyed. Each one also comes with its own set of event cards called impact cards. So, then you also have ambassador cards, of which you pick 6 randomly, each representing a nation in the United Nations. And they come in 3 difficulties, and you choose them randomly, and they start the game face down. But the only way to win is to accumulate enough support influence tokens on each one. You have to get a majority of them, 4 out of the 7. And each one has a goal to meet. So they all depend to some extent on placing support tokens, but they all also depend on various other quantities in the game, whether it's cards on the board, or money, or species, or various other things. At heart, this is a worker placement game with dice as workers. So on your turn, you roll your dice, and then you place them on the various actions that are available, of which there are 4 pre-printed on the board, and others are played by players as the game goes on. And there are some limitations on where you can play them, which I won't go into here, but basically when you play them, you get to do the action, and this is how you move animals around, how you play new cards, how you raise money, and so on. The one type of action which isn't pre-printed is placing influence on the ambassador cards. So it's really important that players work together to get that engine going early in the game, because you only have a certain limited number of turns, which are player number dependent, to get that support. After you take your actions, there's an offspring phase where you look at the number of mating pairs in the wild. And depending on that number, you roll a die. The more mating pairs there are in the wild, the greater the chance that there will be babies. And then you have to do a bad thing, as in all cooperative games, which is when you draw the top card of the impact deck. And if it's a one-time effect, an instant one, it does its bad thing and leaves. But there are other persistent effects which build up over time and have to be dealt with. Finally, you draw a card and you place your token on the turn token, and then you pick another player to go next. So the order that players go every round is going to be different. Once everyone's had a turn, you check to see whether you've got 4 yes votes. Otherwise, you keep going. And you only have a certain number of rounds, like I said before. Then if you don't get that support before time runs out, then you lose. Of course, another thing that can happen is if enough destruction tokens are added so that the species goes extinct or can no longer breed, then you also lose. So overall, Endangered is a very good game. It has echoes of Lords of Waterdeep in the way that players contribute to the common pool of actions. It's got echoes of Alien Frontiers in the dice worker placement, but everything meshes together well thematically. The rules are clear and straightforward and don't have any errors or ambiguities in them. Gameplay is also straightforward. There's lots of interesting decisions, and the artwork and components, as you can see, are simply stunning. One warning though, there's no hidden information, so it's definitely susceptible to the pandemic effect where one alpha player can boss everyone else around, so keep that in mind when you're thinking about your player group. Of course, that doesn't apply if you play it solo, which you definitely can. Another thing I like is that most cooperative games or let's help species survive games like Rescue Polar Bears or Pandemic for that matter tend to concentrate on the immediate environmental threats and how to deal with them. But Endangered has that, but it also has widened the scope to introduce financial and political factors, which, I mean, you can't win the game unless you get political support. Endangered incorporates these factors simply with not a lot of bookkeeping, and I like the tension that that introduces. It's no longer as straightforward of let's meet these immediate threats. You also have to plan ahead to meet your financial or political goals. I also like how each species plays out completely differently because they each have their own impact deck and effect on the game. And in fact, I decided that I liked it so much that I got the first and only expansion so far, which is for panda bears, which include these incredibly cute panda meeples. So, click on the link below to order your copy of Endangered. This is David Weiss for 401 Games. Wishing you a good week. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.